Thank you for listening to this PodcastOne production. Now available on Apple Podcasts, PodcastOne, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasts.
The following program is a PodcastOne.com production.
From Hollywood, California, by way of the Broken Skull Ranch and an occasional side trip to Mexico, this is the Steve Austin Show.
Give me a hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Now, here's Steve Austin.
Well, all right, I'm sitting here with one of the toughest bitches walking God's green earth right now, Josh Barnett. Josh, welcome to the Steve Austin Show.
Oh, it's good to be here.
Man, I appreciate your patience today. Man, I had a few hassles today. Hershey, my chocolate lab, got sick. She's still at the vet. Had to take her in a little bit of an emergency procedure. Got stuck in traffic. We'd already talked. You came over. You're sitting in the street, so sorry you're sitting in your car out there on your ass.
You know, it ain't so bad when you've got, Blackout came on by the Scorpions right before you came and called me, followed up by like Snowblind by Sabbath. And I think some Metallica Hit the Lights. So I had a little playlist going on. I had my stupid phone in my hands, getting back to everybody as best as I could. So I wasn't worried about it. It's funny. I was sitting there. I was thinking before you came over in the last few days, I've been watching a lot of your stuff on YouTube, watching your promos, watching your fights, reading about you. And then, I watched, some of your interviews with other people. And I was thinking, well, man, this is an interesting cat. Where am I going to start with this guy? Because you're a smart cat. Listen to you talk. You articulate well. You're eloquent. You got you're basically telling me I got to have the arrogant British gimmick? Yeah, you got an arrogant. Well, you did train a little bit with Billy Robinson. Yeah, that's true. I did. We're going to go there, too. But you sound like a smart cat. You read a lot? I'm just really good at working everybody, I think it is. You're really good at working everybody. What kind of student were you in high school? Average. I did well on my tests and everything. I just wasn't super motivated most of the time in school to, I get into class, I spend my time in there. If you ask me to regurgitate back or tell you about what we're talking about, we're good. You want to send me home with a bunch of homework and have me shuffle papers. It's like, man. Just couldn't get motivated, but sports made sure that I stayed in school enough to get that going, and it wasn't a matter of having a disinterest in knowledge. It was just the day in day out sort of just feed them through sort of thing. And some of what I realized at this point in my life is that I could have done a whole lot more with high school, and I did have some good teachers in high school, and I don't really put anything on the system as being at fault for any of my own decisions made in high school. As far as I could have had better grades if I'd wanted them. That's for sure. But do you read? Yeah, I read a lot. I read kind of books. I read a lot of comic books and novels, just fantasy, science fiction novels and things for fun. Partially because I figure I live in the real world. I don't really need to read about it so much. But then again, one of the things that I enjoy a lot is to just get on the internet and get in that time suck and start off trying to look up, I don't know, I started screwing around trying to play the guitar. And how long have you been doing that now? Well, probably a couple months. Nothing special. You putting any time in it? Nah, not real hard, but just keeping it nice and easy and loose and having fun with it. My dad was a pretty good guitar player. And kind of music did he play? He played blues and classic rock all the time, and I would sit there and watch him in the basement. He had a '63 Fender Jaguar, and he would play through an old Sears tube amp, and he would stretch strings, and he's hammering off and playing all these solos and stuff, and I would just sit down there and listen to him and watch, and I just have had music around me, good music, my entire life. So I've made a lot of somewhat of a presence in the heavy metal community, and I have all these fantastic friends and fantastic guitar players around me that would help me in an instant. And I have a great guitar that my buddy Alan Steelgrave gave me, and it's just got to the point where, like, you know what, man, I think everybody should know how to play an instrument. They don't have to be master of it, but you're just getting that sort of side of your brain engaged and choosing to do something completely abstract in terms of what, it's not like putting together a website or working on your car or paying bills or going to the gym, or it's nothing like that. And I think that helps to, one, keep your sanity, and two, makes you a better person, and three, once you really start doing it, my buddy Alan, his dad once told him, he goes, you know what, when you're up there and you're playing your music and basically that's your time, you can say whatever the hell you want to say and no one can tell you to shut up.
But now when you look back, do you kick yourself in the ass for not picking up a guitar when your dad was right there to give you all that instruction?
I screwed around when I was 12, but the thing was, I always wanted to play metal. I wanted to play fast and I wanted to play loud, and I was learning old Elvis songs and your proper chord structure and all that, and everything was all in standard tuning, and I just was going along with the flow with what I was supposed to do, but eventually it just fell off. And but now everything I get is what I'm working on a song by my buddy Joel Grind. He's got a band called Toxic Holocaust, and it's called Nuke the Cross. It's just everything's tuned in D. It's got distortion up the wazoo, lots of tremolo picking. It's fast. It's just power chords and open strings.
And you're trying to learn this?
Yeah. Well, it's basic. It's real. If you look at metal music, it's a really simple song, but it contains essentially all the ingredients you need to play metal music. So,
but at a frenetic pace.
Yeah, it's pretty fast. But you can always start slow and build your way up.
Right.
But for me, it's more like the changing on finger position and things like that. The picking is not so bad yet, but if I play more advanced stuff, of course, but then that's the great thing about it is that there's this thing that is constantly going to challenge me, and I can continue to work on it until the day I die. It's kind of fun, and I enjoy it. So,
but how many chords do you know right now? If you were just to sit and go through a chord progression, how many chords you got stored up yet?
I don't know. Hell, I don't even know, honestly, the names of them at this point. I'm just playing off of tabs and sound. So all I really ever play.
Do you have a good ear?
I think I got a fair ear. Yeah, I can pick things up, and I can listen to songs. I can tell he's hammering off, that's a hammer on. I can see what he's doing there. I can hear that it's a slide, but all I play right now is power chords. That's all I play.
But can you read music?
No.
See, growing up as a kid, I was a big rock and roll fan, and my dad played lead guitar in a country and western band, so I was kind of almost in the same boat you were in.
Did he play a Fender?
Yeah, no, my dad played a Gibson. A hollow-bodied Gibson.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He still got it. Birdland.
Okay.
Anyway, so my dad played lead guitar in a country western band, and I said, hey, man, I want to be a rock star. I want to be a singer, but I can't sing
worth the shit. Well, you had the air for it at one point.
Oh, yeah. But not anymore. I can't sing worth the shit.
He was stunning.
I'm still mad at my mom for not giving me any singing genetics. So, but my problem was, I was too lazy to really apply myself. Right. Wanting to play the guitar is one thing, actually, pursuing it, and you're not going to get good by not practicing. So I didn't get good. Then I tried the bass guitar because there's going to be 2 less strings, and that was going to be easier.
Right, all your chords are just basically one.
Yeah. Well, it sounds good, and maybe it is simple, unless you get like a flea level.
Yeah.
A guy like that who's kind of insane and just super talented. But anyway, didn't practice that either. So, now a good buddy of mine, I'm kind of a huge fan of metal as you are, and I want to talk a lot about music with you. Zach Wild gave me one of his acoustic guitars, and then it's down at the ranch in Texas, and every time I go back, I tell my wife, I got to pick this summit up. I got to take it back to Los Angeles. I need to learn how to start playing. If I'm 48 now, if I put in 5 years of hard work, by the time I'm 53, I ought to be able to just, play a couple of tunes, and fuck around and have a good time with it.
Exactly.
So how much time with your training and everything that you got going on? You got a big-ass fight coming up on what? UFC 164, August 26th.
August 31st in
August
Milwaukee.
31st, I'm sorry, against Frank Mir.
At the Sportatorium.
At the Sportatorium. You're kidding me.
At the Omni.
Yeah, at the Omni. He's having pro wrestling flashbacks here. No, but you got a fight coming. You've got a fight coming real soon. You're training your ass off. How much time can you apply to trying to learn a guitar?
Yeah, it really varies from day to day. Depends on how wore out you are, how you're feeling, what else you got to do. And, you may have a fight to train for, and you have all this shit you got to prepare, but the rest of the world doesn't stop for you. They're not going to sit back and be like, he's training for a fight. We'll send these bills later.
You're right about that. They keep sending those some bitches in the mail.
Yeah, I think they try to send them twice as much as possible. But again, there is downtime, and you need to unwind. You need to relax, and sometimes you need to take your mind off of all the training and everything that you're doing and just give yourself a little bit of a break. And so it's fun to just sit down there. I even got a distortion pedal on the way. It sounds like it's not a Boss HM2. I'm not that serious enough to spend the money to get a vintage pedal like that. But I bought a pedal that sounds sounds just like a Boss HM2. And I'm not touring, so it doesn't have to be a big metal-bodied pedal. But so now I can make that Swedish death metal tone. I can just screw around with all kinds of stuff. I just want to play loud and angry and fun.
But you've got a lot of guys, a lot of friends that are in that business.
Yeah.
So, like, when you decide, hey, I need another piece of equipment, let me ask so-and-so, what's my best option?
Yeah, so I can hit up my buddies. One of my good friends is this guy, Andy Williams. He plays in the band Every Time I Die, and he's a huge mark for wrestling and fighting. Used to wrestle and did some training himself back in the day. And, I know I could hit him up and talk to him about what kind of gear he's... And I know guitar can get really complex.
Yes.
I mean, in terms of what pickups they're using and what they're running, what gain they're running, what preamp they're running. Man, I'm not trying to get that into it, especially at this point. But it's just a simple matter of, hey, dude, when you do this, progression, how do you play? Are you up picking on this one also, or just down picking, or how do you just stuff like that, and little things where I can ask him about what sort of amp he's using, or hey, what are you playing at home? And then I've got friends like my buddy Alan Steelgrave. He works for Schecter Guitars, so they've got amps, they've got guitars, they've got whatever, and he's a fantastic guitar player himself. So I've got this wealth of great knowledge and wonderful musicians in my life that are really great cats. I'm sure if I had a little question for them, it'd be real simple for them to it'd be a matter of, hey, Josh, when you're throwing a punch, do you wrap your fingers around your thumb, or do you? Right. I mean, to them it's that basic, I'm sure, but to me it's just a matter of you just get enough and you keep moving on. You figure it out yourself a little bit, and then if you need something, they throw it to you again. You keep moving on.
But when you're a cat like yourself, seemingly to me super competitive, how are you as on your own timeline trying to play guitar? Are you able to just zone in and tune everything out? Do you put pressure on yourself? Or are you like, God damn, I ought to be better than this by now? What's going through your head?
We'll see once I start playing some songs and really start getting some technique down. But at this point, I'm just like, whatever progress I make is great. I have incredibly low expectations, and I just want to have fun with it because I am really hard on myself when I really put my mind. If I want to accomplish something, it can be pretty high stress, to the level where, especially let's say fighting, especially where some of my coaches and people around me, like if they. They'll say, well, dude, wasn't that bad, this and that, and man, I let it out how I really feel about things, and they're like, well, Jesus Christ, man, that's too much. And I go, this is the way I expect it. I'm not going to put all of you under that sort of microscope, but I will not sit and stand by for anything less than that. And you say that's impossible, I say, fuck you, man.
But that's the almost the difference between. I myself, I don't hope for the best. I expect the best, and that all starts and stops with me. So when I get into business with someone, I don't hope that they'll do the right thing. I expect them to, and that goes with the effort. You were talking about sitting out in your car, and I'm a guy that's kind of still trapped back in those older days of metal. And I want to pick your brain as far as giving me some new stuff to listen to, because I know you're really entrenched with the music scene going on today. But you said you're out there sitting in your car. You drove over. I was coming back from the vet, and you had some Scorpions Blackout going. I'm a big, mark for the Scorpions. I love them, forever. What else did you cut your teeth on, or what's some of the older school bands that you still dig?
Well, I'm a huge fan of just music in general, so I listen to
any genre.
Lots of genres, except for country, though. I'll tell you, there's
you don't like no country music.
The thing about country music is what I'd probably have to do is dig further and further and further back. I think country, for the most part, is a lot like rap. It's a lot like other produced, created, corporate created, lowest common denominator type of music. That stuff, in general, doesn't sit well with me, and I hear it, and I can hear how shitty and just how dumbed down it is, and I don't want anything to do with it. I feel insulted. I don't want it in my ears. But also, I've never been a big fan necessarily of the country tone so much.
Right.
But also, I think I'm young for what I think the best of country is, where there was still that blues, R&B sort of aspect to country. So my dad's played me Marty Robbins before, and I like that.
Right.
And I imagine if I listen to old Hank Williams and some other stuff.
Right.
I'm sure I can find country that I would enjoy, but usually in general, when people say, well, what do you listen to? I'm like, everything but country. That's usually because and they'll put on the country station. I'm like, God damn, I hate all of this. I don't want to hear about your tractor. I don't want to hear about your lead jeans or putting your foot in whatever. Like, fuck, man, just leave me alone, man. I just can't deal with it. But as far as metal is concerned, the first metal band that really made an impact on me, and I was so young, but it stuck with me immediately, was Iron Maiden. My babysitter's son, who was older than I was, he had, I think he was about 5 years older than me. He had an Iron Maiden T-shirt. He had the Killers one with Eddie on the front. He's got the bloody hatchet and all that. I remember seeing that shirt thinking, I don't know what this is, but that looks like the coolest fucking thing that has ever been created. And then, listening to the first tape I ever got was my sister's boyfriend at the time, Craig, had the LP for Peace of Mind, and he recorded it onto a tape and gave it to me. Man, I wore that thing the hell out. I even drew the Iron Maiden logo on each side,
Can you draw?
No, not really. I mean, I've screwed around a little bit with some buddies. I had some friends, and we had some guys that were professional graphic designers and artists and things like that. And we would spend these Sundays going over there, and we'd do stuff like we'd do hand positions, and we'd do figure drawing where we'd take they'd have these little wooden figures where you can pose them in different directions,
right.
And we'd take a look and just draw from just eyesight and things like that. But I was never a fantastic artist. But it's just, to me, it was a matter of, I wish I could be because I was such a big comic book guy. But
right.
I realize now that just doing it for the sake of doing it was also a good thing, a good exercise for me.
Well, when you talk about Iron Maiden, I mean, I've been a Maiden fan from way back, but really when Bruce Dickinson came in,
that's when it blew up.
That's when it blew up for me. Just his vocals, the twin guitars. What's the guy? Steve Harris on bass.
Oh man,
I mean, that guy is just a driver. Yeah, he's incredible. And, he's singing every song while he's playing up. He's just singing. He ain't got a microphone, but he's singing. Everything that Bruce is singing, he's singing, but he's just singing while he's playing his ass off. Give me another band that they made a big imprint on you early on.
Well, and then after Maiden, the next step from that was Metallica and AC/DC. I'm a Bon Scott AC/DC guy. Nothing against
Absolutely.
Brian, but that's where it stops for me. I like some stuff off of Back in Black, but other than that, all I own is Bon Scott AC/DC. And but although I love the hell out of Paul Di'Anno Iron Maiden, like it's a different animal in and of itself. Right. I mean, and I've heard Bruce Dickinson sing Phantom of the Opera. Bruce is amazing, but that song is sung best by Paul Di'Anno by far. There's no contest.
Yeah,
something about that guy's voice. He could hit vibrato and all that, and sustain these notes, but at the same time, it had like this weird sort of punk rock edge. It gave it a little different tone to it. The first band that really got me into extreme metal was, I guess, Slayer. My buddy had Hella Weights on tape, and then from there, I remember I heard Arise by Sepultura on MTV, and I'm like, what the hell is this? And this is heavy. So boom, then I'm buying Sepultura albums, and then I'm going through the little CD racks at the stores back when you used to actually go to a store to buy music. And I was a big fan of this role-playing game called Warhammer 40K, and I'm looking through these CDs and I'm like, what the hell is that? That's Warhammer artwork on the cover of this CD. Bolt Thrower, what is this? So I bought a tape for Victory and hooked. I just hooked, and I'm like, and this is the heaviest. It sounds like a bunch of bulldozers going over the top of 1,000 electric guitars while falling off a cliff. Man, it is so brutal. And
is Sepultura still around?
They are, but they don't have the same singer. Max Cavalera sings for
Where did he go?
Soulfly.
He's the guy that started the damn thing.
I know, it was Max and his brother Igor, I guess. But no, he left after Roots, which was in the 90s. And then he started his own bands, Nailbomb, then Soulfly, and then now he's got Cavalera Conspiracy. But that era, especially from Beneath the Remains, Arise, and then Chaos AD, like that's but that is the stuff, right?
Kind of driving, energetic type music. Where were you on the Cannibal Corpse 6 Feet Under type stuff?
Well, see, that was my entry into that was from Bolt Thrower, because Bolt Thrower is a death metal band, been around since '86 in England. You know, that's forever ago. And from there, then I started learning about, and because I was growing up in the '80s, but and then still growing up into the early '90s. That's when Cannibal Corpse hit and others. And at first, I'm like, man, I can't get with this, but I do love the guitars. I love the guitar tones. But some things, it's just a matter of getting acclimated to it. And then all of a sudden, okay, now I start picking it up. I start getting it. And, you know, then it goes from Cannibal Corpse to Carcass. And what was another band that really just, I wasn't really a big fan of black metal when I first heard it back in, say, 92, 93. I'm just like, I just can't get with this. It sounds terrible. It just, I don't get it. There's no crunching. There's no heaviness to it. I felt, but later on in life, I kept hearing more and more stuff, and then my ears started to pick up the differences.
Infiltrated.
And then now some of these black metal bands, some of my favorite bands of all, and so.
What is it with Sweden?
I don't know. You know, it's interesting because they
were more black metal or death metal.
Well, they were really big into death metal.
What is the story with that? I mean, you know, back in the day when they, you know, I see a couple of the rock and roll documentaries. Mm-hmm. You know, one of the bands burned down an old church.
Oh
there.
yeah,
all kinds of crazy shit.
Mayhem. Yeah. Well, the whole group of those kids were all hanging out at this record store called Hell. And one thing that's interesting about Sweden and Norway and Finland, I mean, perhaps, you know, the environment has quite a bit to do with it. It's so cold often, and then the nights and the days can be long in either direction, depending on what time of the year it is. And they've also, you know, they've got they've got a completely socialist type government. So, you know, if you're a kid and you want to rebel and you've got this group mentality already, you know, and it seems to work really well for them. I mean, it's a smaller country. I mean, it's like population of California, so it's a little different when you're trying to take care of like 6 million or 10 million versus, you know, however many. But at the same time, these kids also are, you know, Christianity is actually not very old there. And so they start looking at it, when you start looking for things to rail against, you rail against, oh, well, these guys came over here and they built their churches on top of our old pagan, you know, mounds.
Right.
And this and, you know, everyone wants us to conform to this thing and pay all the same and do whatever. And so they just went completely the other direction. And they needed to find a way to be more extreme, I guess.
Well, what is it with this? I mean, because, you know, I come from a business of pro wrestling. Everything's a work to me, or seemingly almost everything is a work.
Some of it's got to be a work, too.
You know, so, but with all this, the devil worship stuff, you know, here, you know, back in the day with, with Black Sabbath, with some of the stuff with Ozzy Osbourne, and then the backwards masking stuff, all the horse shit, but the satanic worship, all these black metal, death metal bands. Hey, where are you religiously?
I don't have religious affiliations. You know, I don't. I would say that I actually spend time reading and researching and looking things up. And there's, you know, I'm not going to say absolutes about certain aspects. I've seen and felt some very weird things in life, but at the same time, some of the things, by reading the literature that's around, by looking into the history of these things, I just like, man, the way you're trying to get me to follow into what you believe, you're not asking enough questions about what you believe to have that kind of faith and your own rhetoric and into this whole system. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. If you're not challenging things, then at the same time, also, look, man, that's the human mind, the human being that exists is meant to learn and challenge and grow and continually ask questions and to be inquisitive. It's easy for us to fall in line, that's for sure, but when we start off growing up in this world, we're constantly learning something new every day. To shut it all down is actually an exercise in trying to make your life easier by quitting.
Easier by quitting.
Yeah, you just give up. Oh, I'm just going to do what this group tells me to do and follow this line. I'm never going to sit back and go, well, why would I do that? You know, and at the same time, I think people should do good things for the sake of doing good things, not for the sake that they think there's a reward for it. Because then that just starts to become that, well, you're not really doing anything good for the reason of really doing it good. You're doing it because of what your reward is going to be out of it. Either your fear of punishment or the reward of, getting that candy bar. I mean, it's the same thing of, you're not going to do the chores for your family because you love your family and you want a clean house. You're going to do them because you're told to. So basically, you're just being a child.
My take on, pretty much anything down that road is what I believe in. I believe in something. I believe there's a cat or something out there that's kind of helped me out a few times or kind of, I don't know, was watching out for me. But I'm a guy, I believe in the golden rule. I believe doing to others as you would have others doing to you. And that's kind of where it starts and stops with me. When I die, I want to be, what do they call it when they burn you up?
Oh, cremated.
I'm going to be cremated, and then that's going to be the end of Steve Austin. And I don't think I'm going to be in a different place. I'm not going to be in a fire in hell roasting marshmallows, and I'm not going to be sipping on a margarita up there in heaven. I'm going to be gone. But my take on things is, just treat people like you want to be treated. Work your ass out because that's what you're supposed to be for. And if you do more positive things than you do negative, you're in a pretty good you're in a pretty good space. And that's kind of where I'm at.
No one's perfect. Everybody's going to do selfish stuff in a negative way. People are going to do things. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to, and often, we do stuff and we kid ourselves into thinking that we didn't know any better, but we did. We really did deep down often. But, a lot of things are not the end of the world. And speaking of the end of the world, I mean, even if you were, you think about a hell or a heaven or all these sort of things, and these are all simple mythologies that have repeated themselves all throughout history. And, if you go, well, this one's correct. And you go, well, is it correct based on what? Being the oldest? Well, if it's the oldest, well, then
right.
This other one would actually be correct. But, funny enough, this one and that one doesn't really sound all that different. And if that one's real, why wouldn't that one be real? Or this one or that one? Well, are they all real? Are they none real? But I digress. But what it comes down to, you think, well, all right, you have this amazing place that we live on, and these people around us, and these things that occur all within our lives on a daily basis, from the great to the horrible to the, however things are working out, and these minds that continue to grow and that aren't even fully completely understood and used, and such a potential for amazing moments and things in life to experience, and yet you're going to tell me at some point you're just going to destroy it all? What would be the whole... What's the goddamn point of even being here in the first place if there's supposedly some other place where everything is better and perfect? And why aren't we just there then? Why would we even bother to be here? Because it makes no sense to go there at the end or go to this other place. And, it's even funnier. People want to go on about, oh, well, this is, Satan and all this stuff. And you're like, well, as we know Satan, a lot of the nomenclature and the imagery and all this, it's all been lifted from all this pagan stuff where they've already conquered all these things and they've taken it themselves. Well, that's evil. That's Satan. That's what that is. You're like, well, of course. It's easy to just say anything that you don't want anyone to believe or anything that you don't want to exist or you want to get rid of. You just say, well, that's whatever it is that I say that's bad. And because I say it's, in relation to God, then therefore you cannot challenge it. But at the same time, you think, well, if you want to believe that everything has a purpose and God has a plan and God is he's got all this machinations going on and these gears are turning for all this thing to eventually the world dies and blah and boom, right? Well, and you're like, well, okay, well, it's like in the beginning there was the Alpha and the Omega and there's only God. That's all that existed. So he created everything else, the seraphim, the cherubim, and the archangels, and all that stuff to go with it. So that means he created a creature, or the angel, Lucifer, Morningstar, and he created him apparently already with this mindset to be this way, to think, to challenge, to whatever, to eventually, you could think of it potentially, he created an angel to specifically, purposely. Now, he would have to know this was going to happen. So God, being all-knowing and all-powerful, purposely created someone to fail so hard, rise against him, fail at that, and live in hell for the rest of eternity as Lord of that. So wouldn't you be fucking mad as hell if something purposely created you to get to be in the suck forever and you had no control of it at all? You would be the maddest son of a bitch in the whole world. Actually, eventually, you'd just be like, fuck it, I don't care anymore. But it was like, so, Hey, by the way, I'm going to create the most beautiful, amazing, supposedly the greatest thing to sit at my left hand next to me personally. And then I'm going to turn him into a hoofed little weird guy that runs around and sneaks in people's ears and plays the fiddle and, apparently gives us the blues music.
It gives us the blues
and
music.
metal.
The Steve Austin Show. The Steve Austin Show.
Let's talk about your best defense for the unexpected. Are you prepared if the unthinkable happens? If a medical emergency arises, Air Medcare Network provides members with world-class emergency air transport services to the nearest hospital with no out-of-pocket expenses. Join today and never pay a dime for your medical flight when flown by an AMCN provider. Insurance doesn't always cover the full cost of a medical emergency, so this is a great way to secure financial peace of mind. Memberships cost as little as $85 a year for your entire household, and right now, as a listener of our show, you'll get up to a $50 Visa or Amazon gift card with the new membership. Visit airmedcarenetwork.com/Steve and use offer code Steve. No matter where you're at in the game of life, an Air Medcare Network membership is the protection no one should live without.
We're coming back with Josh Barnett. What a conversation we're having. Started off with music, got it a little bit further into religion than I thought we were going to go, but nonetheless, I enjoyed talking to you. You're a smart motherfucker. You got to be reading. What's on your reading list right now?
I have Descartes' Meditations sitting bedside. I haven't finished that yet. And then
Now, what's that about?
It's his process for how he proves things to be true or false, essentially.
So what preceded that?
I think I just picked up the book not that long ago. I bought it somewhere, and what it had to do with is that he had gathered this notoriety of being able to essentially get to the bottom of just about anything and find out, and prove its truth or it's false. So he wanted to write this paper about his methods, about how it came about, how he first went through who he was as a person and how he thought what he thought he knew, and how he completely reset who he was in his mind and his thought process, and so that he could look at anything, and no matter what it was, no matter if you knew as plain as day this rock sitting in front of you, and have a system for breaking down whether the truth of it or not.
Sound like that's
just philosophy.
Prerequisite reading for anybody trying to get into the business of professional wrestling.
It's complex, I'll tell you. I mean, the stuff is pretty dense, and it's been translated from the French.
See, like when I read shit like that, I mean, if I was to read something like that, I'd have to read the same page 2 or 3 times or backtrack and put shit together before I could move forward.
I do it sometimes too. I think
it takes me 6 years to read that book.
Well, it's also good if you have another friend, someone that you can talk to about it. Maybe somebody that's already read it, or be it for school or whatnot, and just go back and forth with them, and then the discussions from there. At the end of the day, you need to find your own system for what you need to discern your motivations and truth.
Okay, so then, that being said, did you do that with Josh Barnett? And by the way, you can follow Josh Barnett at Josh L. Barnett on Twitter. So who is Josh Barnett?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that if you're not evolving, then you're just dying. So, there have been influential people in my life that have helped shape who I am today, and that there are times where I could do something and I just think, man, I fucked up. That ain't no good. What would so and so think of that? That he would just shake his head and be like, that's pathetic. And but there's been, I think every person has a long path that they're going to have to walk through before they fully understand who they are, what they stand for, and why that's the case. And some of that is, which is difficult for folks, is to accept that which you are flawed, especially. Everybody's got their things, but you have to accept your weaknesses and your failures. And did
this book help you do that?
I haven't even finished it yet, but no, it's just, who knows what I'm going to get out of it. I'm maybe just enough for coffee discussion. But
Right.
Books that have helped me out a lot. Well, one of them, Cormac McCarthy's No Country for Old Men and Cormac McCarthy's Blood Meridian. I think the guy is a brilliant writer, and he's got a lot of...
He writes in a very dark, stark, detailed style.
He does. And I know some people can't even get past the fact that he doesn't really use quotations and other, marks within his writing, but doesn't bother me. I think you can pick up on that. And also the Hagakure. It was a book from Japan about this guy who was interviewing this monk who was a samurai previously, and their discussions were all about what it meant to be a samurai and how it was just basically interviews over and over. And from this, writer had gleaned all this knowledge from this guy about how he felt about what it was to be a samurai, what's important about being a samurai, what's important in life, and also what the modern society around them at the time, which this was past the feudal era of Japan at this point, and samurais they'd all turned their swords in. They were not a needed thing anymore, and bureaucracy was now the law of the land. And listen to this guy's take on how Japan was at that moment versus how he remembered when he was a samurai. You can read that, and you could just replace, ancient Japan with modern day. It's funny, the arguments that they had about things that really distressed him about their society at the time, and how it's the same things that you could sit back and take real issue with now.
But you're reading his heavy-duty books, and you also have an affinity for comic books.
Oh, I love comic books.
When did you start reading comic books?
I think probably around third grade. Maybe
Favorite
fourth
comics?
Grade. X-Men is dear to me. I started off reading Uncanny X-Men and Iron Man and Punisher War Journal back in the mid 80s.
What was the drawing factor of that to you, which captivated you?
It was easy. My buddy's older brother, Eric Hendrickson, he had, I think we were at a Boy Scout meeting or something for, I guess it would have been Cub Scout then, or something for school, and he was there, and he had an issue, I think it was issue 111 or 211 of Uncanny X-Men. And it was the one, and on the cover was Wolverine, and he had his claws out, and half his mask was torn off, and there was blood on his face. And I remember reading through the comic, and these guys called the Marauders went into these catacombs underneath, I guess it's New York City in the comic, and were killing these other mutants that were like homeless people that lived under there that were called the Morlocks. And I just remember going, whoa, man, this is crazy stuff. Claws come out of this guy's hand. This dude's made of, like, steel. What the hell is this guy doing? I just, whoa. So I had to read more and more of that. And then from there, Eric Hendrickson, again, turned me on to Japanese comics, manga, and another friend of mine did. And then I'm like, wow, this is even more realistic. There's no talking while fighting. There's, the detail for all the mechanical stuff and some of the more science fiction, more darker storylines at times, and more people that you care, that you become attached to actually live and die and have romances and things. And that really stood out to me. So then I kind of made a big jump to that for a while. But at the same time, I mean, I didn't dislike American comics, but
right.
Eventually,
but it's just the stories. Is it the superheroes and
it's anything
standing
man.
for good, getting Jeopardy, and then making a comeback and winning?
Hey, one of my great, one of the combo. I like the X-Men especially because one, I thought they were really cool. That was as a kid, that's everything.
That's a cool name.
But I liked it because it was a little more dark than the other comics, and I liked manga because it was even more dark, and at times also much more intellectual. A comic that I got hooked on early was one called Appleseed by this writer named Masamune Shiro, and I think the guy's day job used to be physics professor or something like that, and he'd come up with these designs for cityscapes and technology and battle armor and robots and cyborgs, and all of it built on some sort of theoretical real-world application and use and how you might make something, and if you had the materials to do this, and you're not just a matter of just draw that stuff. Like he would come up with tech books, also talking about how he created and how these systems work and how they're used, and even the rounds of ammunition that these SWAT team people would use in the future, and all based upon present day munitions and uses for like armor piercing rounds based on the heat tank round, which has a penetrator spike on the top to pierce into the armor. So when there's a shape charge, it follows right through where it's made that entry into the armor and blows inside into the cockpit. Because otherwise, just shoot an explosive round at these tanks, which have reactive armor that falls off and breaks off, and it's all angled. You're never going to get a good hit on it. But with this stuff, boom, pierces right in there. This is stuff that we still use today.
So what are you reading on a comic standpoint right now?
I just finished a book a buddy of mine did all the covers for, Dave Johnson, called Spaceman, which was pretty cool.
Did all the covers, did all the artwork?
Yeah, he did all the cover art.
That's the thing about the comic books to me is I dig them. I read them a lot when I was younger, but what I always dug about them, and when I go to Comic-Con damn near every year, is, man, the artwork inside those motherfuckers. That's the good shit for me, watching all this good illustration.
I had a friend that she could never get into comic books because she always felt in her head the way it looked, she liked that better. But I always thought, it's so interesting to see all these different styles and how they all contrast and how one is laid color this way and that way. And there's something to... People will say, well, comic book, you just flip right through them. I go, but if you're not paying attention to everything that's in every panel, I mean, there's actually a lot to see, and there's a lot to take in. And I'm a big fan of art, and so I just enjoy the visual aspect and the different takes on different characters, or how you might think you would have drawn said comic. Like what's great, there's this comic artist named Darwin Cook right now, who's not right now, he's been around a while. He's doing these novels based on Donald Westlake's character Parker, and no one had ever really had an official adaptation for anything Parker before. There had been an amazing movie by John Boorman called Point Blank with Lee Marvin, great, and then they try to do it again with Mel Gibson in Payback, but they could never use the Parker name. It was never exactly. And this guy Cook, he got the okay to do it, and he did the books. They used the paper stock that was just like stuff in the 60s, the way he colored them, the way he draws them. These things are fantastic. They remind me of being in my grandmother's little study and finding these old books with illustrations in them, all this stuff from the 50s and 60s, and just like the smell of the paper and everything. It's just amazing, and great stories too. So to see how someone can bring that sort of emotion out of you with their art. I mean, the story's amazing too, but I could just go read the book for that. But I would miss on the way this guy has interpreted those stories and these characters and drawn them. It's amazing.
Oh, are you a movie fan at all?
Big time.
What kind of movies you like?
I mainly lean towards science fiction. And just interesting. I watch foreign cinema, dramas. I watch a lot of weird stuff, bad horror movies. I'll watch the usual big budget Hollywood stuff here and there. I mean, some of that's, I think Pacific Rim looks pretty cool. It's coming out.
That looks pretty cool.
And I'll watch Man of Steel. I just saw This Is the End. That was a lot of fun. But often I avoid that kind of stuff, and I like watching there's a company by Magnolia Films called Magnet, and they release all kinds of just crazy weird stuff. Hobo with a Shotgun with Rutger Hauer, 13 Assassins, which was a Japanese flick by Takashi Miike. I watched something else by them the other day. It's just, anything just all over the place, weird. They often have it, and it's just, I enjoy watching stuff that's just not the usual, not the norm.
I got a bad hankering for some of that bullshit the Sci-Fi Channel plays. Some of the most ridiculous horse shit that's ever been made into a movie, and it's just, I don't know if it's just so bad it's good, but it's just off the wall.
Well, and you could be a movie snob if you wanted to and look down upon people's movie choices. But at the end of the day, I mean, if it's entertaining to someone, then it's entertaining. It's
well, think about it is, but a movie choice is just like a music choice. I mean, it's just like we're fixing to jump right into pro wrestling. We're fixing to jump right into MMA. And when we're talking about pro wrestling, it is purely subjective.
Sure.
What I think is the best versus Zach Wilde, who his favorite is the Ultimate Warrior. I'm a little bit more in the Stevie Ray Vaughan flavor of a cat in the ring. So, it's purely subjective. Now, you want to start talking money and what people drew, then you can draw an objective bead on stuff. But when you're purely talking taste, I mean, it's almost the same as if you have a band like Air Supply versus a band like Metallica. Both are extremely good at what they do.
But incredibly different.
Incredibly different. I would prefer to listen to Metallica, but with that being said, Airplay was damn good in their own right, doing what they did.
I agree, and I will say I think music is the sort of thing that people should be able to branch out and get out of their bubbles. And I think that
are you saying you need to get in the country bubble?
I do have a little bit of a hankering to look into some old country music, but even for me, even within metal, listen to bands and genres within metal that I hadn't normally listened to, or it's just like making that big turn into black metal and I've got a good portion of black metal on my iPod now that I listen to, and even from there, just always finding something new. And I recently went back to some of my old 80s roots and then even followed stuff out from there and bought old Joy Division albums and things like that I didn't have. And that, from there on out, I mean, you start making jumps to some of the more modern indie music and alt music and stuff like that, and finding a bunch of stuff that's really great, and even being open to, hey, if you got a friend that's into whatever and they love it, throw it your direction, give it a listen, And a friend of mine turned me on to this band called The Bronx from LA. They're a hardcore punk band, and one of my favorite bands of all time. No doubt about it. One of my absolute favorite bands. And I'm a big guy about I need lyrics and I need music because I'm going to listen to the lyrics. The lyrics mean a lot to me, and it goes with the music. It's a I'm not people that just go, I don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Like, well, why even listen to the song then?
But then let's talk about those lyrics, because a lot of the music you're talking about, I mean, and I can't just be specific in talking about the lyrics, but a lot of the death metal, a lot of the black metal stuff is, kill them all, fuck them all, chop them up, fuck them up, and blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
But, along those veins. And don't get me wrong, dude, I'm a big metalhead. But so when this music is playing, you're an MMA fighter. You're one of the nicest guys I've ever met. Obviously, as we sit here and talk, highly intelligent and very articulate and eloquent. But what's going through your mind when you listen to this music?
Sometimes
is that your release? Is it rage? Do you listen to this while you train?
Absolutely. I mean, I have different training soundtracks, and someone today started laughing. I turned on. I have a playlist I just call it Metal the Old School Way, and I just all nothing but old school metal stuff because it's so much more palatable to everybody in the gym when we're listening. We're just all training, and someone started making death metal, vocals like, and I go, no, not today, no, we're just getting into the swing of things,
right?
Once you start getting full on into camp and we're going hard and it's my sparring time and people are running shark tanks on me, you damn right I'm going to have a playlist that has got some of the most vile, vehemently violent, angry, like, fuck you, I'm going to burn this whole place down. Right. And when that's done, I'm going to piss all over it, and then I'm going to try and burn it down again. I mean, all that stuff's going to play, and that's what I'm going to spar to. That's what I'm going to train to. And I don't have any problem acknowledging the really dark and twisted and things within myself. It's real easy for me to get into that, but at the same time, I don't fear it. I don't worry about it because I'm a person that's in control of their own lives and what they do and what they say. But ever since I was a kid, even my mom, she said, there's just something about you just have an anti thing about a lot of stuff. And if you respect something, if you like it, there's some sort of common ground you see with it, then everything is fine. In fact, sometimes it's even better than fine. But if you have an issue with something or you don't respect something, man, you have a serious. There ain't no turning you around hardly. And in fact, it's you're almost looking to just go remove that from the face of the earth entirely.
Are you the kind of person that questions everything, or at least authority?
Yeah, I had an ex-girlfriend. She said, I made some comment about something, and she went, wow, that's pretty surprising since you basically don't trust fucking anything.
But, there's something to that. And I said a thing way back
the
then.
rattlesnake,
don't trust
right?
anybody. And to a point, but really, when it all boils down to it, who can you truly trust? Now, I'm not, talking from a point of paranoia.
Right.
When it comes down to it, who can you really trust 24/7, 365?
You, yourself. And
damn right.
You're the one thing that you ultimately have the most control over in your own life. When people, my friends or folks around, start going on and on and on about their woes and their issues and all these sort of things, and eventually it always comes back to, I go, look, man, you're the only, you can bitch about that person and this thing and that thing, and what are you going to do about those things? Well, this is too complex. I can't just do that and this. I go, okay, great, but what can you actually control? You
right.
can decide how you deal with it, how you feel about it, how you're going to handle it. Also, control how you are as a person and how you should make your own adjustments to actually better understand and make more out of life than you already are.
But woes and issues right out of your mouth. What are the things that get you down as a person?
You know what gets me down? This is a simple thing. When I see, given the opportunity to do good or to do bad or even just to be indifferent, you give someone anonymity like with the internet. And when I see how, given that option, what are you going to do now that you've got the power to essentially say or do almost anything without anybody being able to tell you that, to make you pay up for it.
Right.
And more often than not, how people choose to do shitty things. And it's almost like, I view things like the internet kind of like, what does a person do behind closed doors, and what do they say when no one's around? Was it Martin Luther King said, the measure of a man is not what he does when people are looking, it's what he does when nobody is. And this is kind of the nobody's looking because you're anonymous. And then given that chance, what do? You act like a total piece of shit. Or, the other things that get me down is when I see what I feel like somebody that, when I see all the issues that we have within society today and how some things to me seems like a simple fix. But I think about stuff like, all right, we have all these people that are in prison for weed in some way, form or another. And I think, I'm paying for that. I'm paying to keep this guy behind bars for joints or ounces or what. I don't care. If he's smoking weed and getting all blazed up and he runs his car into some pedestrian, he's he wasn't fit to be behind the wheel at the time, so he shouldn't have done that, and therefore he has to pay the price like anybody else. But now I'm thinking, man, millions and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions. God damn. And this person's in prison, which is a horrible place to be. It's senseless. It's pointless. Or other things that get me down are just when people act like they can do whatever the hell they fucking feel like it, and they don't ever have to pay any price for it. Go to a movie theater and have someone turn their cell phone on during the movie, and it's just this lack of common courtesy and respect. And it's like, man, that's terrible. Like, you can't turn your shit off for 1 minute, and then you say something, which I feel is the right thing to do. Hey, don't use your cell phone during the movie, and then they want to give you attitude about it. But no one would ever give you attitude if they thought, well, if this guy gets up and takes that cell phone and buries it right up my rectum, cops aren't going to roll in here and no, they're just going to be like, oh, you shouldn't have been a dick. But no, what's going to happen is, I'll sue you, I'll do this, and blah, 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 I'll call the police, and you could be in prison for a felony. And I want to sit back and think, well, hey, man, nobody gets their ass kicked if they're not being a jerk. And I believe freedom, you should have the freedom of speech, absolutely. But that doesn't mean that words are free. You have to stand behind what you say. And if I say something, I want to stand behind it. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. You know what? Fuck me, man. You're right. I screwed up. I'm wrong. I admit it. There you go. That's it. That's the end of the story. I'll move on from here. But if I believe in something, you tell me you're wrong, and I'm like, that ain't wrong. This is right. Well, okay. Well, okay then. What do you want to do about it? well, okay, there you go, man. And if that ends up me getting put under for it, then that's the way it goes. But at least I did it standing up for who I am and being a man about it.
A lot of heavy shit going on here at the Steve Austin Show. I'm going to take a little break, pay a few bills. I'm talking with Josh Barnett, UFC fighter, MMA extraordinaire cat. Also, a little bit of pro wrestling coming up. You can follow Josh at Josh L. Barnett on Twitter. You can follow my sorry ass at Steve Austin BSR. The BSR stands for Broken Skull Ranch. We're going to jump head first.
I thought it meant big son, bitch, and redneck.
You can call it that too, but it stands for Broken Skull Ranch. As long as it's all good, it can stand for anything you want it to. Coming right back with more with Josh Barnett. We're going to get into some fighting and all kinds of other cool shit. Coming right back. You own or rent your home? Sure you do, and I bet it can be hard work. You know what's easy? Bundling policies with Geico. Geico makes it easy to bundle your homeowners or renters insurance along with your auto policy. It's a good thing, too, because you already have so much to do around your home. Go to geico.com, get a quote, and see how much you could save. It's Geico easy. Visit geico.com today. That's geico.com. All right, I'm sitting here talking to Josh Barnett. Man, this has been a hell of an interesting conversation because, man, I'd watched a bunch of your interviews. I'd seen that you're a pretty deep cat, and nonetheless, that is how it's turned out here. But we're going to turn into something, and I know it's going to get complex again, and I'm digging it because I like to see where you're coming from, the world of fighting, mixed martial arts. I did, some background on you. As you came up through school, and when did you first start getting into the game of wrestling?
I started wrestling in high school. I did some judo my freshman year because my football coach was a judo player, Fred Sato. He was actually one of the higher-ranked dudes, I believe, in the Northwest. He even used to train with Bruce Lee back when Bruce was still a kid in Washington, Seattle, probably. I think he was still at Garfield High School when they met. So a little known fact. If you watch Dragon, the Bruce Lee story, that movie's a bunch of bullshit. That's not how it went down at all. And Bruce Lee moved to Seattle. He went to school in Seattle. He went to Seattle Public Schools, Garfield High School. He went to the University of Washington. Ruby Chow's restaurant was on University Way, and he had his first place behind Ruby Chow's on University Way. His first student is, oh my God, how can I not remember that? Jesse Glover, who passed away not too long ago, and he was continuing to teach Wing Chun and what he learned from Bruce in Seattle, and then from there also Taki Kimura, who used to own a corner grocery store in a dicey part of downtown Central District Seattle. That's Bruce Lee. Right. He's buried in Seattle. His funeral was in Seattle. Bruce Lee, man, he's part of Seattle history. So, so I started doing judo. I tried out with the wrestling team. Went to practices and everything. And then sophomore year, went in and started kicking butt right away. Won all first 9 matches.
No, you started kicking ass right off the bat. Now, were you bigger than everybody, or this is all straight up as per weight thing for you?
I was a heavyweight. I was a big kid. I was like 6'3", 250.
So you was a big cat back in.
The first guy I ever wrestled, he was like 6'5", 240, 230, and he'd already, placed in Metro before.
But you played football too, right? But you dug this more.
I always had an affinity for fighting. I got into a lot of fights when I was a little kid.
Why?
I had a short fuse. I couldn't handle being teased. I didn't.
And what were these kids kidding you about?
Well, I was a big kid, and I started getting heavy set, like probably around first grade. But also, it was just a matter of that whole. I didn't know how to handle if people were being shitty to me, and also part of it, I think, was that big brother complex, where when you're a little kid, you got a big brother. And I've seen it and experienced it even with my brother-in-law. You mess with him, he's going to beat the shit out of you. Right. You catch you, but you still mess with him anyway.
Yeah.
And he'll run around hollering and giggling, and then he gets you, and man, you're crying when he's done. But but, you know, I'm a bigger kid and whatever, and, you know, it was easy to gang up and pick on me. And I remember there would be like a whole circle of like 8 or 9 kids like encircled around me, just teasing me and, you know, being shitty to me. And I'd try to get one of them, the circle would move, and I'm just getting madder and madder and madder. And in my mind, I'm thinking, why are you fucking with me in the first place? I didn't do anything to you. I'm not being a dick to you. Why are you going to be a dick to me? But, you know, that's how kids are, you know, if they can be a dick to somebody. And also, like I said,
but it was that strength in numbers type thing. You know, you're one of the first guys that I've really talked to. You know, these days with bullying being so prevalent, and it was something as a kid growing up in South Texas I was never really exposed to. Obviously, clearly, here you are right in the middle of it. But so you start smoking cats right off the get-go.
And my dad was like, don't come home losing fights. You know, he showed me how to throw a sleeper on some kid. You know, when you get into the whole shoving match thing, the difference between being a nice guy and go time didn't end until I made it end. And I would get a hold of these kids, man. I'd do a real no. First kid I ever knocked completely unconscious was 3rd grade. I pinned him up against a wall outside on the playground, and I was just flurrying on him, and he just covered up, and I just turned the angle and hit him right in the temple, like Dad said, and down this kid went, boom, just like a sack of potatoes.
But dude, you're knocking these kids out. You're making a name for yourself in the 3rd grade. How long did these dumb motherfuckers keep picking on you? I mean, because wouldn't you think that they would smarten up pretty quick and say, hello, let's don't fuck with this guy. He's bad news.
You know, it didn't really work out that way so much. In fact, the funny thing is that I would get into all these little altercations, and I would end up getting in just more and more and more and more trouble. And no punishment would ever befall the people that were picking on me. And instead, it got to the point.
It's the reactor that gets in trouble.
Right. Well, it got to the point where, so I went to kindergarten. The first year I went to kindergarten, I met all these kids, and we all became friends. And there wasn't a whole lot of beating up at that point, which was nice. And then first day of first grade, I'm like, where is everybody? And so I'm going to class, and I'm like, I don't know any of these people. What happened? I want to be with my friends. And so I meet some of them. They're like, oh, we're in the Horizon program. We did this thing. And I'm like, well, I don't know what that is, but I don't want to be in this class. I want to be in the class with all the kids that I know. So I go to my mom, and I go, I want to be in Horizon. And she's like, okay, fine. So we go to this location. They have this whole testing thing that they have us do. And I guess Horizon was this advanced kids program. So I go and I test in, and I do all the tests that they give me and all this. And then when all is said and done, you know, I learned later on in life, my mom tells me, he goes, well, you know, you got into Horizon, no problem, but actually what you qualified for was this other thing, which was in the 98th percentile, and they would have put you into this program. They want to put you in that instead. For these,
above Horizon?
Right, above Horizon.
Right.
But I would have had to have gone to a school in a different location, farther away. We lived in Ballard. It was like in the CD or something like that, so it would have been a much bigger commute to everybody and my mom. And so she's like, you know what? No. And he just wants to get in Horizon and be with his friends anyways. So I'm in Horizon, I'm doing whatever, but things just started to progress in a bad way, and I would start to get ostracized. Even got ostracized by the teachers in 2nd grade. I had them turn a whole class against me at one point, which was really weird. And we were doing a thing on poetry or something in 2nd grade, and then the teacher managed to try to get all the kids to write poems about how bad I was, while I'm sitting in the corner, removed from everybody. Yeah. You know, the other teacher in the other side of that class was gonna tell my mom always what a horrible kid I was, how I was just such a fucking piece of shit. And my mom's like, okay, well, based on what? And she's like, you know, I'm gonna record him and I'm gonna play it back for you, what a bad kid he is in class. And then she goes, okay. So teacher goes and records me, I guess, and does the whole deal and fights my mom to come back in, and I'm gonna play this for you. You're gonna hear how bad your kid is. She goes and she plays it, and it's nothing, dead, no sound. And my mom comes home. She's like, so, you know, went to the teachers, and they're gonna tell me what a bad kid you were today, and play back all your nonsense. Yeah. And she goes, so when did you erase the tape? I knew what she was doing, so I'm like, bullshit. So I just basically, after she had been recording everything, when everything was said and done, class is over, I just flipped the tape back over, put it on record, and let it record dead air.
Right.
Just let it go till it ended.
What'd she say to that?
Well, my mom was just like, yeah, well, My mom didn't like these teachers very much anyway.
But what does that do to a kid where you're at? Okay, you got these kids, all of a sudden they kind of turn on you, gang up on you. Now you got this teacher who's picking on you for no damn reason. I mean, does that anger you? Where does that put you in your head?
Yeah, well, it caused a lot of problems for me. I was for quite a while. I was I had a real issue with who I was as a person. I basically went for all these years. I started spending more time in the principal's office with my work there and talking to the principals about flying ultralight airplanes because that's what he was into. So we'd have these ultralight magazines and I'd read them and we'd talk about flying these planes and how they're built and all this kind of stuff. But I'm not getting anywhere in the system,
Right.
And the whole time being basically told, you're wrong, don't stand up for yourself, you have to put up with any bullshit that's given to you, and no matter who they are, no matter how old they are, no matter what their position is, you got to take any garbage and anybody shoves down your throat, and you just have to accept it. And at one point, it got so bad that I beat some kid up real bad, and they kicked me out of the Horizon program. I had to go back into the regular school, same school. And then they threw me in anger management classes and all this kind of stuff. And, basically it just beat me down until I got to the point where I'd let people get away with shit I'd never let them get away with. But I would never retaliate because I'm like, all I'm going to do is get in trouble again, and I'm going to be stuck in this, and I'm not going to be able to do
But were
anything.
you harboring all that resentment?
Oh, big time. Man, I just waited for the day. I would imagine the days that I could just burn it all down, because I just felt it was bullshit. And I know that teachers had a problem with me to a certain extent in that if I didn't see you as a person deserving respect, even in fourth grade, I could see right through you, then I wasn't going to give it to you. A 45-year-old man does not want, fourth grade, what would I be, 10-year-old kid looking at you with disdain.
Right.
That's just not something they want to put up with.
Right.
But I still managed to get into scraps here and there. By high school, I was so I can't do anything wrong. But then I found sports. I really found athletics. And I played baseball when I was a lot younger, and I was pretty good at that. But
you've talked, in a lot of your interviews, I've heard you talk about your mean streak, and anybody that's ever seen you in an octagon knows you have one. And to me, in competitive athletics, I don't care whether it's volleyball, football, MMA, or to a degree, pro wrestling, you have to have that mean streak.
I've always had a real competitive nature about me, but going through all the crap I did growing up, now I think I've probably got a permanent chip on my shoulder of sorts when it comes to competition.
I was going to ask you about that. Does that help you in the octagon?
I think it helps me a lot, to be perfectly honest. I remember what it was like, and I remember how it felt to see people that would be like, why is everybody lauding this guy with so much accolades, and why does everyone think this guy's such hot shit? And I'm better than him at everything. Why is this guy have such a braggart attitude about him? Like, what are you bragging about?
Right.
You've done a goddamn thing. I've learned obviously not to respond to that so much, but still a part of me is like, talk the talk, walk the walk. And if you really want to show what you believe, then you go out there and you do it, and you let the world see it, and you're like, this is what I stand for, this is what I'm about. You can believe whatever the fuck you want to. This is you can continue to find whatever you think is the right way to be that, but I'm going to show by example, and those that pick up what I'm throwing out there, they'll come along for the ride, and they'll get it too, and you'll make that impact. Going out and complaining about things or pissing and moaning about it is never going to get anything done. And like I said before, you are the one thing that you can control the most. So I make sure that I do the most and that I can for myself, and then let that be the thing that people see. It's like, when people tell you how religious and how pious they are all the time, those are usually people, it just comes off just like so much bullshit. The people that you've ever met in religion that are the most pious, that are the most whatever religion that they prescribe to, they just are that. They don't have to tell you.
I agree.
If you are it, you don't have to say it. You just be it. Everyone will know. I don't need to tell anybody I'm anything. I'll just be who I am, and you'll realize.
You into high school at this stage, you get into athletics. That's where you're focusing a lot of probably your frustration, but the fact that you love competition.
Well,
and that's
also
what drove
football,
you.
we had a shitty football team with great athletes, just the worst football team ever. And I
a shitty coach?
hated losing. Hated losing.
Ain't nothing worse than losing.
And when I got to wrestling, it was like, okay, it's on me now.
Right.
Everything that I did in the gym, in the room, before I got on the mat, everything that I do out on the mat, and I have coaches, I have teammates, but I walk out alone. I'm okay with that.
Right.
I remember playing good games in high school and football, and, okay, well, you want me to play up the middle, I'll play up the middle. I'm kicking butt, and people are running around the ends. I'm like... It's like it doesn't matter how many people, how much I do my assignment. If you can't contain, then I just get to watch people run down the field. Or I remember running some kid down after he picked a pass off, and he's going like 60 yards, and I catch up to him, and he looks back, and he's like, holy shit. I remember I met this kid later after the game. He goes, I heard these footsteps and this breathing, and I turn around, all of a sudden I see a lineman's on my ass. I was just so pissed. I'm like, God, I'm so sick of losing. I'm so sick of losing.
On that note, one thing that really bothers me is when you see these guys pick off a pass and they start lollygagging on the way to the damn end zone, either holding the ball back or stopping even before they get across the goal line. And that whole attitude, that showboating shit,
I can't stand that shit either. You know why? Act like you've done it before.
Well, that's when I go, back to, Barry Sanders, Walter Payton, Earl Campbell, some of those guys, they score a touchdown. They just hand the ball back to the referee or just put it on the ground and go back to the sidelines.
There are times when emotion legitimately overtakes you in a moment. That's not it. That's just you trying to be like, everyone, look at how cool I am. Aren't I cool right now? Mom, hey, did you see this? Oh, look, I'm going to look. No. Oh, I'm going to outdo that guy, what he did. Man, I don't give a shit about any of that. You just look like an asshole right now. I don't even want you to score. And you're on my team, my city's team. But just go out there, do it like you've been there before, like you've done it before. Is this going to be the first and last touchdown you've ever scored in your entire life, jackass? No? Maybe? Is it? Well, if it is, go ahead, do your deal. Have a nice life. If this is something you plan on doing, if you think you're actually worth a shit, then you just go and you do it and you go, hey, get used to this.
What position did you play in high school?
I played line, and I played a little bit of middle linebacker because I was quick.
College ball?
No, I always wanted to, but I remember being at Husky football camp and beating on some of these big old kids that got scholarship to go to the football camps, and kids from Denver and Utah and these other places, these big kids. I hadn't played football as long as them, and I didn't play for as good of a school. But when it came down to it, I was just playing meaner, so I could head slap them, check them in the throat.
Judo background and that stuff don't hurt either.
No, especially on pass block. And I used to get in someone's pads, run them around the corner, and then just foot sweep them right onto their head and just let them go and just laugh my ass off. But I just remember just beating these kids in drills and doing all this stuff, and they'd get the all-camp honors. I'm like, man, it's just dangling carrots in front of the horses to get them to go. And then when it came down to it, I didn't get any offers or anything, any sort of scholarship from the UW, which is really where I wanted to go. But it makes sense because, hey, here's a city kid. He's only going to pay like $22,000 a quarter. Like, it's cheap. Bring him in. Make him pay. They gave the scholarship, and I remember they gave the scholarship to this kid from Tacoma, big son of a bitchin' kid. He was terrible, and he couldn't even hardly pass his SATs. So I'm just going, man, I was so jaded about that. But at the same time, I didn't really know how to approach going to college, how the process worked, and how you send out, not just about filing applications. I mean, they just send you these things, you fill them out and send them out. And I had offers for scholarships for track and field and
what event?
Throwing, shot put, and discus.
How far were you chucking a discus?
144.10 was the best in competition, but I'd thrown some 160s in warm-ups.
Yeah.
Funny the way that works. I only played it for 2 years, though.
Yeah.
And discus wasn't an event that we did every time at track meets. It was only on certain ones because, for whatever, we didn't have a space for it in the city. They didn't have javelin either. You could compete in javelin and invitationals and things like that, but you couldn't throw javelin really unless you went to a JV meet, which was only every now and again where there weren't enough people there to, I don't know, it was weird. But so,
did you grow up in a small town?
No, I grew up in the city, but it's just certain things, like we didn't really, our city wrestling is freaking terrible. still atrocious. I think, and I could be wrong, but I think I am the most decorated heavyweight wrestler from the city of Seattle there's ever been. And I went to state my first year wrestling. I took 7th, then I took 2nd, and I did some stuff in freestyle and Greco. That is ridiculous. That should not be the best guy to ever come out of the city. But that's how it was. And even within wrestling, I remember how alone I would feel. Not really alone, but just like I don't have anything to do with the rest of you guys. I would end up on my own at state, at regionals. I'm gone. Everybody else from the city, all the other wrestlers, all done, gone, or out in the first round. I'm out there wrestling. I'm going to the junior nationals, representing Washington State and doing these things. I just remember being, man, it's like, in fact, my senior year of wrestling, I had to go to Everett High School to wrestle because there wasn't anybody that could push me in the room at all, or anybody even near my size at Ballard. And so my dad would drive me up there where my brother-in-law, Pat, his brother-in-law, Kevin, who had coached a whole pile of state champions, and he had a room full of tough guys. And I thought I knew what wrestling practice was about until I got there. And, we'd start off with things that would normally be the conditioning drill for the day at our old wrestling room. And man, that's warm-up. And it just made me tougher and meaner and better. And but again, here I am. I'm a Ballard High School Seattle kid. I got nothing to do with the city when it came to wrestling, because it just was non-existent.
So then the jump into MMA.
Yeah, well, when I first saw UFC 2, Kevin brought it over. My dad was in the hospital for something. We had a little card in there, and he had recorded UFC 2 on VHS. I'd heard, but I didn't know exactly what was going on. And I was a big fan of wrestling, and I watched this thing, and I saw Hoist Gracie. I'm like, oh, it's the judo guy. That's the way I saw it at the time, and I just remember being, holy crap, this is it. This is the thing. This is what I want. And I remember saying, one of these days, I don't know how, I don't know where, I'm going to do this.
But I'm
a sophomore in high school.
But my memories of the first UFC stuff was, guys either wrestled or they stood up.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
And it was a totally different animal than what it is today.
Yeah.
But at this same time, you also grew up as a wrestling. You also grew up as a fan of professional wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
So, what did you think of the two versus each other? Because you've done both. You currently do both. But you knew you wanted to be an MMA guy.
I always knew that I had a love for being in the middle of combat. I just did.
Shoot combat.
Yeah. Being in there and punching and getting punched was something that actually fueled me to go more. I didn't start fights, but being in them, I just loved it. And I knew that I had an affinity for this, and part of wrestling was the closest thing to being in a fight that you could do on a regular basis, it looked like. And so I saw this, and it's just the idea of taking all these martial arts skills and using them in an actual full-on environment, it just blew me away. And these guys are larger than life, and here's the kung fu guy and the karate guy and the sumo guy, and that was, everybody'd argue all the time about who could beat up who and what was the best. And to think like, okay, all right, I'm going to go out there and do this. And I always thought of myself I was a wrestler, but I wanted to learn Muay Thai because I knew what that was, and I wanted to learn how to strike and do everything.
But then how long did it take you to bring your striking game up to your base of wrestling?
It took a while, but we had a security guard at our school, Sujai, who trained Muay Thai before, and he would teach some of the kids that I knew, just a few of them. So I started doing that a little bit, nothing special, but just learn how to kick pads and little things back when I was senior in high school, 17 years old.
But when you say, you're a guy who you pictured yourself in combat and growing up, as a kid getting picked on, fighting for yourself, standing up for yourself on playgrounds, and making a name and a reputation for yourself at an early age. But the person, and, as I sit here and talk to you, one of the baddest guys on the planet, and I mean that as a shoot, I'm not just blowing smoke, that's just the way it is. The dues that you paid, the workouts that you put yourself through on a daily basis. I come from a work work background, and straight up pro wrestling. It's
but your work background is far different from some of these kids' work backgrounds now.
Oh, yeah. But my point is, I'm just out there. It's a show. It's physical. And you got to be tougher than a goddamn New York City cockroach to do it and live on the road and go through all the bullshit. But just from a standpoint of being a fighter, I guess let me go ahead and get to my point. Obviously, you've got to like to hit people. You've got to love to hit people. You've got to like to hit people. But obviously, you're going to take some shots back. So, I mean, it's one thing to duke them out, as you know. So how is it taking all that shit? Because, I mean, I can't imagine getting the shit punched and kicked out of you, feels like a motherfucker. But then again, I'm not coming from a fighter's brain. That's why I ask you.
It's what it feels like to be alive. I've had fights where I've gone out there and didn't get touched a single time. Didn't really feel like I was in a fight. Just felt like I went out there and just rolled over someone and just left and partied and drank my ass off. Getting in there and breaking my hand in 23 seconds of the first round of that Cormier fight, and then left hooking the guy in the face with a broken hand. That's what it feels to be alive.
That big swinging door left.
Yeah. I mean, that is. I love that. I like that feeling. I like getting off a stool and I've got blood coming out of my face and blowing it out and wiping it off and throwing it on the ground, looking that guy in the eye and being like, I'm gonna fucking murder you, man. There is nothing you can do to me but kill me to stop me from doing what I'm gonna do. I am never going to quit. I am never going to stop. If your cornermen get in here, I'm going to fucking kill them too. If you got people in the audience that are coming, I'm going after them. I'm never going to stop until I can't breathe anymore.
That mindset, the combat mindset, lives and breathes inside you. But going into a big fight, any fight, but they're all big at this point. And certainly when you're coming up, every fight means something. But going into this to a big fight, well, you got one coming up with Mir here in August. Nerves before the fight, the night before, will you sleep? Are you uptight? What are you thinking about?
No, I'm not one of those guys. I don't get nerves. I never have. I just don't have them. If anything, what I do is I'm always very relaxed and joking and palling around, just having a good time, just ease into it. And then in doses, it comes and goes when I'm training and different stuff and different moments. But the day of the fight, all I do is I listen to, I got a soundtrack I like to listen to, and I sit there and basically I just.
Now, is that a heavy-duty soundtrack?
Yeah, it's very heavy-duty.
Now, with that being said, can you get too high? And I mean emotionally. I'm talking about getting high. Can you raise the angst too much too soon?
People can easily do that. And, and the fact that I don't get nervous doesn't make my preparation method better than anybody else's. And I always tell people, some folks are like, I wish I could be like you. And I go, hold on. You got to be like whatever you have to be like to be the best that you can be in the ring. And the fact is, some people need to be nervous. Some people need to be dead scared. Some people need to be angry. Everyone's got what they need. And a lot of folks go through a whole variety of things. But in the end, there is that preparation that goes through it. There is that feeling that is necessary for you to hold on to go out there and do the best that you can.
But I cut you off. You go into that soundtrack, and I cut you off. I want to know, can you get too high too fast and burn yourself out, or you tap into your reserves?
Not me. For me, when I listen to that soundtrack, it's really just about. It's just part of a ritual of discarding my life. I don't have it anymore. I throw it away. I don't care about living or dying. I feel essentially dead inside. I don't feel like I'm a human being anymore. I'm not a living person. I'm more walking the line between life and death at that point. And I don't care about what happens to me. I don't care about what I do to that person. I don't care about what happens to pretty much anybody in the whole world at that moment. And I don't have any feelings or remorse or mercy or anything or any concern for my life or anyone else's. And when I get to that point where I don't care about my life anymore, or I've thrown it away, it is the most free, liberated. I feel like any chains that have been thrown upon me throughout, the days, they're gone. Like none of that. I have no concerns. I have no worries. I have no fears. I have no love or no, it's just. Is
that all through the day? Okay, say you're fighting. You're probably going to get in the ring at 9 p.m., 9:30 that night. Let's just say.
Probably starts at about noon.
start noon, you might hit that soundtrack, but then you're going to chill. When will you take your last meal in?
Probably in the locker room at some point. I like to nibble and just sort of never get full, but keep myself fueled up with something.
Fueled up,
like a protein shake or obviously lots of water throughout the day, and then maybe some complex grains here and there, and just stuff to make sure that my blood sugar is not going to fall, and I've got energy, and I've got, I'm not running on empty, and I'm fully hydrated. And I really was bummed out when some of these commissions were throwing fits about having food in the locker room. I mean, just going berserk about it.
Why?
I don't really know why exactly, but they're like, no fruit, no this, no. I'm just going, man, you're asking us to go into a locker room that we have to stay in for 3 hours. We're not allowed to go anywhere, and we're not allowed to eat. That's preposterous. That is completely unsafe and against what we've been doing this whole time to train for this fight. That's just not the way an athlete goes into a competition.
I watched several of your fights. Obviously, I've been watching you for many years. And one of the fights, you're about to fight Marco Krokop. I guess he had something about to be in his eye. You pointed that out to him. What happened?
He had an eyelash.
Yeah, I mean,
he had an eyelash was just sort of dangling there on his eye. I just, you know what? At that point, I don't really care anymore. I'll make jokes. I fuck with people. I'm relaxed. I'm good to go. Like, I'm squaring off with Mark Hunt in Pride, and he had fought Vanderlei, I don't know, a couple fights before me. And at this one point in the fight with Vanderlei, he just jumps in the air and just does a big old, basically a senton on the guy. There's a butt drop on him.
Yeah.
We get in the middle of the ring, and the referee's calling out all the instructions, and I like Mark.
Yeah.
And he's like, no headbutting, no elbow, no this. And I'm like, no atomic butt drops.
Big crack.
Yeah, he started laughing.
When he goes into the ring, he just lost a tough fight.
Yeah.
But when he goes into the ring, man, that son purely doesn't give a shit. And he looks like he's got a mean streak 3 feet wide and a mile long. He's able to joke around with you at that moment, too. I mean, and seemingly, you're the graveyard disciple, Zach Wilde, Black Label, ready to kill anything and everything and not worry about being killed. And you're just shucking and jiving. And
I can be out there, and I can choose how I want to be. Although I can say as I've gotten older, I've just gotten meaner. That's really true. I mean, if a rattlesnake's fangs get longer, the older it gets, then the venom is definitely even more potent at that. So, but I could also get out there, and part of that was ring comfort came absolutely 100% from being a worker. Tell you what, being a worker for New Japan Pro Wrestling starting in 2002 made me a better fighter, bar none, no way about it. And I can go out there.
How so?
Well, it's what you're out there in front of performing night in, night out. There's times I worked a show where I had a fight on the card, and Hogan, he's going 3 matches after me. There's 55,000 people there. I mean, it's nuts. But I feel like, holy shit, I'm home. I'm doing what I need to do. I'm a part of all of this. This is no big deal. I would get in front of crowds and cut promos in Japanese sometimes. That's nerve-wracking because all I'm thinking of, I'm going to say something stupid. I'm going to really ruin this.
Do you speak the Japanese language? You've been over there for years now.
I used to be pretty fair with it, but at this point, it's quite poor. But that's because of lack of use, and that's the thing. What if you don't use it, you lose it. And I do try. I train Satoshi Ishii, the former. He was a gold medalist in judo, and now he's a professional fighter, fighting at heavyweight, and he's on a pretty good streak right now since he's been working with us, and he's one of my sparring partners. I speak to him in Japanese, mix Japanese and English to make it easier for him. So when I get a chance to use it more often, it starts to come back. And
right.
If I was
memory.
If I was to stay in Japan for about a month, it would improve substantially. But as it sits now, it's just if someone starts talking to me first, I can get around a little bit, but it's not what it used to be.
Speaking of Japan, and you spend so much time over there, and I spent a little bit of time over there, Japan crowds are so much different than United States crowds.
Yeah, night and day.
And with that being said, I mean, because they're just content to watch, let it unfold, and or just even just for getting to the ropes to break a hold. Signs of respect, signs of fire. And American crowds, I mean, they're a little bit more rambunctious, and especially if both cats that are in the ring.
That's like sometimes they just start off hating you already.
Yeah, but if someone's really over, I mean, it's just a more raucous affair. UFC crowds are so fickle. I love UFC, but they will start booing. They will start booing in the middle of a damn good fight with two highly touted cats who are just having, a chess match out there and canceling each other out. They're working their balls off, but because the crowd's not seeing what they wanted to see, maybe stand up trading hands, they're going to start laying into these guys. Does that affect you guys in the ring?
I think it affects some of the fighters for sure.
Does it throw someone off their game plan?
I believe it can. Absolutely. I don't really give a damn myself. I don't care about any of them. I also sit there and laugh and think, oh, you might be booing because or unhappy with going on right now, but watch. I do something all of a sudden. Oh, now you're all on your feet again. Now I come out and I cut a promo. Now you're all cheering again. So, and that's one thing that's great about professional wrestling is that no matter what happens, if you give me the opportunity, I will turn that crowd around, or I'll make them even madder. Either way, I'm going to get that. I'm going to get a reaction that's going to make an impact, and it's going to stick. Some of the shoot folks don't really like that so much, but what they fail to understand is this is still entertainment, and this is also about personality. And if you don't care, if you're not caring one way or the other, even it would make me laugh as people would try to talk shit when I'm cutting a promo, like I cut one on about after fighting Brett Rogers. And people tried to throw a fit about it, and I go, well, even you getting online and throwing a fit about it still means that I won.
Right.
Still works.
You evoked a response.
Yeah, and the thing is that the people that like things are often less likely to go and have to tell the whole world about how the people that want to complain, that are assholes, they're always the ones that want to talk the most anyways.
Yeah.
But the fickle fans can, I don't appreciate it when I'm a spectator at all.
Right.
I don't like. I watched Randy Couture walk out to a standing ovation, get knocked out by Chuck, and then hear guys hanging while Randy's walking through the entryways or whatever, and being like, "You suck! I just lambasting him with insults and just thinking, you're a fucking asshole. 1 minute you were spilling your beer because you were so happy to see him go fight. Then he lost. Now you want to throw him under the boat. Well, man, that's ridiculous, and I can't get with that. I do appreciate how the Japanese fans are loyal to and if they boo you, they have a good reason for it. But in general, they're just going to sit back, watch, they'll applaud for what they like. And I love the fact that when you get a Japanese crowd hooked, how they pop, and they stomp their feet. And man, when you really get them going, it's hilarious.
It's funny because back in the day when I would go over for New Japan and you could have some guys out there. I mean, it might have been Benoit, Guerrero, Malenko, some of those kind of cats, that cruiserweight style, and they would go out there. I mean, everything they did was a high spot. Everything they did was dynamic and explosive.
Junior heavyweight stuff. That's.
I mean, but those guys would go out there and just knock the socks off the crowd, and then you're in the back thinking, how in the fuck am I going to follow that? But you just go out there and do your shit, it gets over just as much. I mean, as much as they loved and appreciated, and those guys I just mentioned were supremely talented and really over in Japan. But if you just stick to what brought you there, they will respond accordingly. They dig it all. And right when you think you can't follow somebody, you can.
Yeah. Lashley was always talking about, Finley would always talk about, oh, man, you could hear that one from back here. That must have been a good match. And you could hear it from back. I don't have to see it if I can hear it. But if I'm sitting in the back, and I'm sitting back there, and all of a sudden Benoit's Wild Pegasus gets up there and is tombstoning somebody off a second rope, I'm like, man, all I got for the first 5 minutes is a hip toss. They're going to hate me. good God. We do a brainbuster fake out spot, maybe into an arm bar, and he worked that for, oh, man, they're not going to like this shit at all. But you gotta believe in your gimmick, man. And if you tell a story, if you're out there creating, oh, this is who this character is, this is who that character is, this is why this match is important between the two of them, this is how this guy wrestles, and this is how that guy wrestles, and this is how they counterbalance each other, this is how they neutralize each other, this is, oh, okay, yeah. I like to tell people, workers, I go, you want to learn how to work? Watch Antonio Inoki versus Bill Robinson, 60-minute, best out of 3. Watch that. If you can do that, well, I mean, it's a lot to ask. That right there has everything one needs to know about professional wrestling altogether. One match.
I don't even think I've seen that match. I am going to watch that match. Is Antonio Inoki versus Billy Robinson. Do you know the year?
I think it's in the
probably
late
only
70s.
did it one time.
But
it's
a 60-minute, 2 out of 3 falls.
Okay. You can probably get it on YouTube.
Oh, I'm sure.
I got to check that out. I mean, the other day, a couple of weeks ago, I was talking to Bret the Hitman Hart, and I referred to several of his matches, which were things that I consider must-watches for people trying to get into business or people who are already in the business but want to watch really premier good shit. So I referred to a couple of matches. So Antonio Inoki versus Billy Robinson, 2 out of 3 falls match, and it goes about 60 minutes.
Yeah, and I tell shooters, I go, hey, well, just recently I was watching a bunch of docs on Netflix, especially wrestling stuff. I'm a big fan of the history of wrestling. I'm a catch-as-catch-can wrestler. I know my roots. I know where the people that taught me the techniques, who taught them and who taught them and who taught them, and where that comes from, and from working and shooting and the whole environment. I know my history. I feel like a lot of workers know their history, which is something that I personally find a lot more enjoyment and respect in than some of these shooter kids. They don't even know the guy from 2 years ago. They're just so about the now and themselves that they don't have any understanding of what came before them and why it's important and why what they're doing today is a really amazing thing, and who paved the way for that and how it's supposed to work. History, then you can make decisions that can make a better future. But I'll tell these shooter kids, like, you want to know something about how to make a better career for yourself, as a fighter, as an entertainer, as an individual, go watch this Rowdy Piper doc. You go watch this thing and watch what this son of a bitch did. Watch how he got responses from people. Listen to his story of being 16 years old. Can you imagine being 16 years old, you little son of a bitch, and you're out working territories? People are sticking you on buses and whatever, and you got to go and get in the ring, and apparently Larry the Axe Hennig beats the crap out of you, some big giant old worker. You don't know him, and you're 16.
Yeah.
You're 16. He's a grown man. Yeah. What do you? And you're in the middle of St. Louis, Missouri. What do you've never even left Huntington Beach, California. You don't know what the hell's going on, and just watch that. Watch how this guy goes. Oh, okay. Cyndi Lauper's got this whole thing going on, so I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna kick her. You think I'm not going to get over with that? Think that's not going to get me all that heat that I need? Or watch how he's doing his promos. I love that whole, you think you know all the answers, but I keep changing the questions. He's just, I got to work on a Rowdy Roddy impression.
Do you have one?
I don't. But not one that I can throw up there yet. Harry Smith could probably do one. Man, he can impersonate Spot anyway. I watched him do Mike Rotunda.
Harry Smith?
Harry Smith.
Really?
Yeah. I've trained him for some years, and good kid, man. Good friend of mine.
Yeah, he just got a little sideways in WWE.
Yeah,
he's doing some stuff in Japan.
Right,
he's got a future ahead of him.
Now. Yeah, he's doing great. Good. And he's won some grappling competitions. He's a catch wrestler. He works on
pretty tough kid, isn't he?
He is. He's an ox. I can see he gets, his dad was strong as shit. He is too. So I'm sitting there at as Mania in Phoenix or wherever it was, Arizona, and it was Rotunda and I forget who was with him, and Harry. The guy keeps goading Harry, do it. Come on, do Mike. And finally Harry starts doing. He's opening his eyes all extra big and doing it just sounds and looks exactly like Mike. And Mike is laughing his ass off and bugging his eyes out and doing the whole thing. And I'm like, man, it's killing me. It's killing me. This kid is so good at this.
You brought up something. I don't want to get off this because I keep talking a little bit about pro wrestling because, man, you're talking about some of the good stuff there. But I read that you trained a little bit with Carl Gotch.
Yeah.
And Billy Robinson.
Yes.
Man, you're talking about two all-time legends. What was Carl Gotch all about? And what age was he now?
I think he was 70 something.
Did you roll with him?
No, he wasn't doing any of that at the time.
Just talk with him, and
and he was showing me some stuff and pointing out things in some matches. I mean, it's funny, these Japanese guys set this whole thing up for this magazine. Here, Mr. Gotch, will you watch one of Josh's fights? And I'm like, oh fuck, oh no. And I already knew a bit about Gotch from this guy Jake Shannon, this friend of mine who runs scientificwrestling.com, and we do a DVD series together, and he's a big proponent for spreading catch as catch can all around the world. He also used to work too. He did some lucha stuff and some little things. So he's familiar with both. And Gotch is sitting there watching it, and he's like, "Look at these guys. They're you're on your back like a whore, blah blah blah." And I'm like, and so all this is said and done. Gotch looks up at me, he looks at me, he goes, "That piss you off what I say? You don't like it? Get under your skin?" I go, "No, it doesn't bother me at all. I want to hear, no matter how insulting or whatever it is you got to say, I want to hear what you have to say. I want to see your take on what I'm doing. I want to hear your opinion on this match in general, because in what you have to say, there is going to be something that is going to be helpful to me, that is going to be a set of eyes that has seen this in a completely different way, that is going to allow me to be a better fighter." And he just kind of looked at me, and he just sort of smiled a little bit. And
there you got it.
And then he started showing me some exercises and things, and he called me on the phone when I get back home and gave me a little warm up that he used to do and some jump roping drills, and it was fantastic. I loved it. And
pretty awesome.
Getting to meet Gotch and train with him a little bit and learn from him. And the thing is, I would be a great grandchild of Gotch in terms of catch, because Gotch trained Fujiwara, and Fujiwara trained Funaki and Suzuki. Funaki and Suzuki helped, trained Matt Hume some. Matt Hume trained me. But at the same time, Gotch trained Sayama. Sayama trained Yorinaga Nakamura, who trained Eric Paulson, trained me. And Sayama also trained Paulson, trained me. And then with Bill Robinson, I learned directly from him for about a couple of years. How was working with Billy
Robinson? Now, that was a guy who was a pro, who I have a tremendous amount of respect for, but you would hear word on the street through the locker rooms that he had a little bit of a mean streak in him. He'd take a couple liberties here and there with the guy.
I bet he does. And he's got his opinions. He definitely has his opinions about working and shooting and the like. But I love Billy. I loved being coached by him. I loved his input, and he was always fantastic with me.
What was his strong point? What did he help you with?
You know what? Positioning, some techniques, holds. I've got a little combo submission setup thing I call the Billy Special, because I got it from him. Some things about riding. It was just everything. He helped me with my grappling. Even a little bit on boxing too, because he was showing me this setup. He's like, this is Archie Moore's thing. This is how the Mongoose knocked a whole bunch of people out. So I never forgot it.
Did you meet Danny Hodge?
I never met Danny Hodge, but I know that guy's a real badass. Me and Daniel Cormier, even before our fight, were going on about, well, hey, who do you think could have been, a real badass professional fighter if they were in their prime? We're like Danny Hodge. Danny Hodge was a boxing champion and a wrestling champion, and apparently had a grip that would just bring you to tears.
That was the biggest thing, his grip strength, breaking pliers, apples, all the stuff. I was watching a couple of things, before we started talking, and reading some of the interviews and with Daniel Cormier. And, man, that cat is low center of gravity, a powerhouse.
Yeah, very explosive, good. And he's an Olympic athlete, man.
Yeah.
I've fought multiple Olympic athletes. None of those guys are pushovers ever. They're all, when you go through an Olympic system, they put you through some shit the kind of training that you don't get anywhere else. And that's why you just can't sleep on those guys ever, or girls, in case of Ronda Rousey. But, she's not going to be the only Olympian that's going to turn over. Well, we got another one. We got Sarah McMahon. She was a wrestling Olympian, and people are going to make those transitions to fighting. And, whether or not their heads and their hearts are really into it is one thing, but physically,
right,
they are on a different level than most people.
What's the, just out of the blue, this shit's popping in my head. What's the hardest you've been hit? Do you recall?
Miracle Crowcroft, I think. That guy back in Pride, man, he was something else. Something else. I watched him. He was helping me out with my left hook. This is after we'd fought, and he was in Vegas, and he was there as a spectator and promote and whatever. So we're working out in this Vegas gym. We're training together, and I was hitting pads and things, and he wanted to help me with my hook. I threw my hook. He's like, no, you don't throw it that way. Throw it like this. You can get more power. So he's like, let me show you. So here, hold it. And he's a lefty, so he throws a right hook. So Paulson puts this tie pad up, leather tie pad, leather straps and buckles, and holds it up. And so Miracle goes, okay, so I want you to come forward on your punch like this. And wham! And he hits this fucking tie pad, rips the straps, and the tie pad flies 15, 20 feet across the gym, hits the wall and falls down, rips it right off of his arm. And Paulson's standing there with his hand in the air, and he just looks at me like, holy shit. And I just turn to everybody dead silent, and I go, yeah, I got hit by that, and it knocked me out, so I'm a dumbass.
Hey, going back to some of your fights in Pride and now back in the octagon, what's easier to fight in, or what do you prefer to fight in, the cage, the octagon, or the damn ropes? Because the ropes, to me, as a spectator, would get in the goddamn way too much.
I prefer fighting in a ring. I think it's faster. I like how, you're not fighting in the ropes or on the corners so much. You're more in the center of the ring.
Right.
But the cage has a lot of advantages for a guy like me, and stuffing a guy into it and putting him on there. But cage also has the negative aspect of allowing people to get back to their feet so much easier.
Right.
And putting their back up against it, and, they can hang on that cage and stifle you. It's got pluses and minuses. The UFC cage also in particular is huge. It gives people a lot of space to run. I'd much better prefer it if it was a little bit smaller, but it is how it is at this point. I remember the first time I ever walked into the UFC cage, UFC 28 to fight Gan McGee. I walked into the cage, looked around, walked over to Matt Hume in my corner, and goes, thought I'd be bigger. Looks bigger on TV.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I got to WWF back in the day, and I think we were running
24-foot ring?
No, it's a 20-foot ring, but I think I'm quite sure it's 20. That's what I've been calling it for all these years. But we were wrestling a lot of 16-foot rings in WCW and some of the smaller spot shows, and probably an 18-footer in all the other shows. And an extra 2 feet is a big son of a bitch. I mean, you'd kind of blow up when you first got there.
Start running rope.
It was more territory to cover, but once you got going, then you loved how big the ring was. But back in the day, those old 16-footers, we'd work in some of those tent towns, as we call them, little shit shows. Man, taking bumps in those it had a great spring in them, and it made this tremendous crashing sound. And one time I was working with Aldo Montoya, and Jake was his manager, and I think I gave PJ Aldo, whatever his name was, PJ Polacco, I said it with respect. I gave him about 20 vertical suplexes in a row as a rib, And I said, I'd look over at Jake Roberts and said, Jake, this one's for you. And I'd just give him another suplex. And of course, Jake was playing along. Oh, don't do it. Oh, he was just selling like a son bitch over there because I was giving this guy all these suplexes. But how is that octagon to bump on or land on? When you belly to back a guy in that motherfucker, it looks like it feels like
more
shit.
It's got more give than you think.
Does it?
It does. And so did the Pride ring too. There's a match. Probably my last really good match in Japan was a New Year's Eve thing. Me versus this cat Suzuki, who also trained under Billy Robinson. So he was a catch guy, and we just went out there and we didn't really call a match. I just had a finish, and that was it. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, we'll just this or that, whatever. Just put heat on me, do this, do that. Yeah, we'll just play it by ear. Cool. And we did it on a New Year's Eve card. That was also, it was IGF Pro Wrestling and Dream at the same time. So I get in the ring and I'm like, you guys are going to pull the spring, you're going to pull a pin, you got the spring under there, you just pull the pin for the work matches, right? They're like, a what? There ain't no spring under here. I'm like, cool. I get to the kid and I'm like, all right, well, we don't have a whole lot of big shit, but just understand, you know, if you think you're going to German me, like, that ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'll, you know, I'm like, brain busters are cool, this is cool, that's cool, you know, but just, you know, watch the head drops and, you know, we're not, no point in wasting it. Keep me the fuck away from the apron, because if I bump out there, man, that might be the end of me. And people don't understand that when you're working wrestling. If you see people bumping or whatever, when you see guys bumping towards the apron on the edge of the ropes, that's a motherfucker. And sometimes they're getting bumped there because either they did something to that guy and pissed him off and he's being a dick, or sometimes just because they are shitty workers. But you know, don't bump people on the aprons.
You learn real fast once you get in the business of pro wrestling, the world, you know, that I know specifically. You're bumping all over the ring,
yeah.
But your big bumps are in the center of the ring because that's your sweet spot.
Right.
It doesn't take you very long to learn at all how hard the sides of that ring can be. And, you know, take your ass in the middle of the ring. It looks good from a performance standpoint, from positioning, and also it feels better as far as execution and exact.
You get that noise, man. I know what you're talking about.
You gotta have a noise.
Man, that noise is amazing. They need to mic the underside of these octagons, because
they started having some mics back in the day. They was picking up too many high spots.
Oh man, man, that noise is just something else. Like when you hit that big move and the whole thing, just you guys lift off the mat like a couple inches, and you get that,
and the crowd goes, oh,
yeah,
because they said it's like, as much as the business has been, you know, exposed, they like, that shit was real. Did you hear that?
Yeah. Well, you know, I still, it draws my ire anytime anyone goes, oh, you do that fake stuff too, and I go, I don't know. I just want to David Schultz them, you know, but I'm like, it's not fake. It is predetermined, and it's a work. But it's not, I mean, fake is such a disrespectful term to working. It just is, because, like, yes, we really are slamming each other. We know a safe way to do it.
Right.
But if I picked you up and slammed you right now,
right,
even, and not trying to hurt you, and
right,
did it in a working ring with a spring and the whole deal, you'd be like, Jesus Christ, I don't know how, I don't want to, no thanks, I'm good. I don't know how you do this over and over and over and over and over again. Or if I just ask you, hey, just fall on your back right now. Just
take a flat back and slap the mat. And I'll tell you to slap the mat, so you don't just fall down like an idiot and fuck yourself up. I've gotten past the point of, and I don't want to say not caring, because I love the business. Yeah. I love professional wrestling.
So do I.
I love mixed martial arts. But as a fan, as someone who is in the business of professional wrestling, you know, these days when someone says some stupid shit to me, you know, I'm able to just process it, answer accordingly, and not get my feathers ruffled. But from, you know, back in the day when you refer back to the David D thing, we talked about this a few weeks ago with Bret Hart. Dr. D, David Schultz, was a wrestler who, back in the day when, to my listeners who don't remember, John Stossel, an interview, a reporter came back, 60 Minutes, and was doing an expose on the business of professional wrestling. And Dr. D slapped John Stossel, you know, once on the right side, once on the left side of his ear, once on the right side of his ear, and I think broke both of his eardrums.
I think so. And he goes, how fake was that?
How fake was that? And, you know, Dr. D looked like a pretty salty character, and certainly plenty salty, you know, as compared to John Stossel, with no respect to that guy. But he was just trying to protect the business.
Well, have you seen the Belzer and Hogan thing, right?
Yes.
And, you know, one thing, people like to talk about Hogan a lot, but I've heard, you know, I've known you, 2004.
Yeah, met you at World Gym in Marina Del Rey,
and I've gotten to be friends with a lot of workers who've been around the business, and it's funny is listening to them talk about Hogan, and in some ways it's like, you know, hey, you know, back in the 80s, this guy would be in a bar, people come up to him, fuck with him, and do that, and Hogan's original trainer is Masami Soranaka, who was training guys for the UWF over in Japan to do shoot stuff. Mike Barton even trained under Soranaka a little, so he learned some submission things here and there. I mean, this was back when some of the reality of what professional wrestling used to be as a shoot still existed in the training for even the working. And, you know, Masami Soranaka, I guess, broke Hogan's leg first week of training just to prove him. Like, you know, you're a big, strong kid and whatever, but you watch this, and just, I don't know what he did to him, toe holded him, something, screwed his shit up, but definitely showed him what was what. Well, Hogan used to front face lock people and choke them out and do whatever. And so Hogan's on this show, and Mr. T is out there, and he's basically getting ribbed by this guy, Belzer, the whole time, just dissed and whatever, and being made a joke of, and T's losing his shit. So Hogan comes out, and And T is like, man, I'm glad you're here because I am sick and tired of dealing with this dude, and this is not a work. And then Belzer says something stupid about, hey, why don't you show us one of these techniques? And Hogan's like, how about it? Gets the crowd behind it, puts him in a position where Belzer has to go up there and be a dummy for Hulk Hogan. Man, he's smart. Man, he was so smart at times. He gets Belzer up there. He goes, here's a real simple hold, and he called it a front chin lock. And it's basically, it's like a gravit or a front face lock. You put the hand on the tricep, and the other arm goes under the neck. And if you go across the jawline and lock it up, you break the neck. But you go under the throat, and then you lock onto your other wrist, and now it's a front choke. And so he goes, this is a front chin lock, very basic hold. Everyone and T is sitting there going, man, I hope you just put him to sleep. Just, you know what? Just throw it on him 100%. And Hogan's being Hogan. He's charming. And he's being cool. And no big deal. And he throws this fucking thing on Belzer. He puts that arm under and he goes, we just lock it in. We just squeeze it like this. And Belzer kind of struggles a bit and just drops him on the floor, completely passed out. And I'm just going, you cocksucker, you got exactly what you earned it. You earned it by being so derisive to all these workers and trying to make a joke out of them.
Right.
And, if you want to be funny, you want to play and mess with folks,
it's okay to laugh with the guys, but don't laugh at it.
Yeah, exactly.
I gotta check that out, and I'm gonna go on YouTube and check that out.
It's on YouTube. It's great.
This has been a Podcast One production. Download new episodes of The Steve Austin Show every Tuesday at PodcastOne.com. That's PodcastOne.com.
Pluto TV is playing the biggest movies every night this summer for free. Watch hit movies like The Matrix, G.I. Joe Retaliation, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Scary Movie, Runaway Bride, and more all summer long. Check out the biggest stars like The Rock, Keanu Reeves, Tom Cruise, Julia Roberts, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and more. Plus, Pluto TV has hundreds of free TV channels in English and Spanish featuring TV shows, news, sports, comedy, and more, all for free. Download the free Pluto TV app on your favorite streaming device, including Android and Apple smartphones. Pluto TV. Drop in. Watch free.
Do you own or rent your home? Sure you do, and I bet it can be hard work. You know what's easy? Bundling policies with Geico. Geico makes it easy to bundle your homeowners or renters insurance along with your auto policy. It's a good thing, too, because you already have so much to do around your home. Go to Geico.com, get a quote, and see how much you could save. It's Geico easy. Visit Geico.com today. That's Geico.com.
Hey, what's up? It's Meta World Peace here. And I got my new podcast, Metaphorically Speaking. We're going to be talking about mental health, basketball, and a lot of tough topics. All that and more with my friends and celebrities. So make sure you check out my podcast, Metaphorically Speaking, every Thursday on Apple Podcasts, PodcastOne, and Spotify.